I need to kick the habit that my mind is breathing in. Break out, I've got to see. Spent all my life holding all of it closely. I played it innocent, a feel of discontent. I'm finally facing it all, fearless.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Matt. So today we're working on the 04 New Edge Mustang. We're doing the clutch in it. Clutch went out. And I just wanted to show you guys how involved it is to do a clutch on one of these cars that has long tube headers. It has long tube headers. It is extremely hard to do this clutch because you have to take the headers out because you can't get the trans out with the headers in. Somehow I got the trans out with the headers in. I just pried it out. I pried it away from the headers. But there is no way you can put that trans back in there with the headers in. So let me flip this camera around and I'll show y'all real quick. So as you can see, we got the clutch in there. Headers are still in. But I'm in the process of taking those out so I can get that clutch back in. But to get to the headers, the entire K-member has to come out, because it is in the way of getting to the bolts of the headers, as you can see. And you have to take them out on both sides so you can put the trans back in. The way you have to do it is you have to have an engine cradle up top, as you can see right there, holding it up, and then a pole jack in the back to support the rear of the engine. And I always use a block of wood so you don't puncture a hole into your pan. But yeah, we're in the process of taking this apart and doing a bunch of other things that this car needs. So my new name for this car is Death Trap, because every time I go to fix something, I find more and more things that are wrong with it that could have been really bad on the road, going high speeds and whatnot. So as you can see here, bottom ball joint is completely shot on the control arms, and that is on both sides. So both ball joints up front are shot, and that could have been really bad going down the road, speeding, drifting, doing whatever. And then the wheel bearings are out as well on the front. Front tires were bald. Clutch went out. I mean, sway bars, the rear sway bar wasn't even tight. It was completely loose. The front sway bar had no bushings on it whatsoever. It was just held in with a bar and some nuts. So my new name's Death Trap because this car quite literally could have killed me very easily with the way I drove it, you know, going through turns fast and stuff, with no sway bars connected, bald front tires, bad wheel bearings, and ball joints that were on their way out. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna try to put this car back together, get these headers out. I still got a bunch of other things I need to do to the car. So let's go ahead and see if we can get this trans in here, get these headers out first. So we got one header out, and honestly, don't know if it's gonna work, but I'm going to try and slap the trans in here with this header in there. I think there'll be enough room to maneuver the trans into the location it needs to with this header being in. I just don't really want to remove this header because it has an EGR tube on it, and the EGR tube sometimes can be a pain. So I'm going to see if I can get it in there. If I can't, then I'll definitely have to take that header out. But right now we're going to try and squeeze the trans in here, see what happens. So as you can see, we got the header out. Everything has to come out, motor mount, springs, everything has to come out. So here's the trans. Again, so we had to send it out. The trans is good, ready to go. Got new throwout bearing, new pilot bearings in the car, and we have a new clutch pivot ball. So we're just gonna have to pick this trans up, put it on our training jack.
Over the edge, feel like I'm floating through the air. The pain I felt is paid for, all is said and done. Oh, I am restricted, fixed upon the web. I need to kick the habit that my mind is breathing in. Break out, I've got to see. Spent all my life holding all of it closely. I played it innocent, a feel of discontent. I'm finally facing it all, fearless. Burning the bridge that keeps us. I'm here and I'm feeling fearless. Exaggerated, that's what you assume. The story's over now, I must conclude. I am conflicted, watching where I step still, hanging in the balance. Not the life I want to live, I want to take it all. Standing tall, fear outweighed the person you are. Oh, break out, I've got to see. Spent all my life holding all of it closely. I played it innocent, a feel of discontent. I'm finally facing it all, fearless.
So what I like to do whenever I put a clutch in, or whenever I put a transmission in, whether it's stick shift, automatic, whatever, is I like to make sure, you know, you put it in evenly, put the trans in even. But before you go ahead and you tighten it all down, especially on an automatic trans, spin the harmonic balancer, make sure the harmonic balancer spins, and that you don't have anything locked up or cockeyed, crooked. Because especially with automatics, if you put an automatic trans in with a torque converter and you get the trans lined up, then you put it in there and you just crank it down. You just crank it down without putting the torque converter bolts in first or halfway. When you crank it down all the way, the torque converter will lock up against the flex plate and you won't be able to turn harmonic balancer. So then you gotta loosen the trans, pull the trans back, line up the torque converter, put torque converter bolts in, push the trans in a little bit, tighten torque converter bolts up, and then push the trans the rest of the way in, tighten the trans up, and then you torque your torque converter bolts. But I like to do the same thing on a stick shift car, just to make sure that you have your teeth lined up correctly into the clutch. Because if you have the teeth not lined up correctly and you're just shoving it in there, first of all, it'll be super hard. You probably won't be able to get the trans to go all the way in. But I like to spin it just to make sure you don't have anything locked up, don't have the trans crooked, you don't have the clutch in there crooked. So you put the car in gear. That way you can see if the output shaft is spinning while you're turning the harmonic balancer. So turn the harmonic balancer, check if the output shaft is spinning. If the output shaft is spinning and it's pretty easy to turn, it's not going to be super easy to turn because of the compression and all that. But if you can turn it, then you'll be good to go. Finish torquing everything down, and then you can put your cross member in there. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can turn this bitch over and make sure I got it set up right. I don't know what size it is. Ooh, it's an 18. Can I do it with a little ratchet? Got the Ooga Dooga arms. Pressure stroke. All we need to do now is put our header in, get our headers tightened back up, and then slap our K-member in, bolt everything back up to the K-member, take all of our engine crane off, and then bolt our drive shaft up, and then put fluid in the trans, put the shifter on, and then she'll start. Hopefully the battery's good. It's a brand new battery. Better not be dead. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead, put our header back in to put a tubular K-member under this thing. So if I ever do have to take the headers out again, you won't have to drop the K-member, because the tubular K-member, you have enough room to get the headers off. So that should be fine as soon as we do that. But let's go ahead, put this header back in. All right, so after a lot of frustration, I got the header back in. All that time just get the fucking header back in. The header's pretty easy to do. It's just one bolt is a pain in the ass. So this is why with long tube headers you cannot get the transmission out. So you can see the starter hole is completely behind the header, and then on this side you're really close, and once you bring your bell housing, you know, the edge of your bell housing is right here. Once you bring that down, you're gonna hit. You can see all the marks. So 100%, you have to take this header out for 100%. I did not remove this one, and I got it in there perfectly fine. So this is the only one that you actually need to remove, but you still have to do all that work just to get to it. So now it's just time to slap the K-member back up, plug in our harness and stuff, put the drive shaft in. All right guys, so it's a couple days later now. I finished the Mustang up. In the last video I got the trans in and the headers in, but then I stopped because it was super late, and the next day I went to work and I finished the car while I was actually at work, so I didn't have time to record it. But we got the car buttoned up, everything was good. I drove the car home that night, and I was having a lot of issues with the clutch engagement. It was all the way at the floor, and then halfway on the way to home, I had no clutch pedal at all. I couldn't shift gears. So I just made it home in second gear. I got it home, and there's a firewall adjustment on the clutch cable, because this isn't these cars aren't hydraulic cable. They're they're not hydraulic clutch. They're cable clutch driven. So I have some adjustments to move the cables, and I adjusted my firewall adjustment all the way out, and it was perfect. If clutch, it grabbed. I didn't like the point where it grabbed up top, not all the way up top, but really high. But I was able to drive the car. And then yesterday I went to drive the car and back to square one. So let me show you. So this is the clutch cable right here. And as you can see, this is an adjustment right here to push this piece out. And I have it adjusted all the way to the max. But I'm still, we still got about half an inch of play. So we're back to square one where the clutch isn't working again. I'm completely maxed out here. And then we also have, I don't know if I'll be able to show you, but we also have right there, we have an aftermarket stainless steel clutch quadrant, and we are completely maxed out on the adjustment on that. And as you can see on our pedal, we have a bunch of play, and even with the pedal pushed all the way down, our clutch is not engaging. So I'm thinking we either have a bad clutch cable, and the clutch cable keeps, fraying inside of this and breaking, or there's an issue with, hopefully there's not, if there's an issue with the clutch. I don't think there'd be an issue with the crank. I don't think if crank walk happened, I don't think that would cause that. That's like kind of worst case scenario. But I extremely doubt it has crank walk. I think it's the clutch cable. Unfortunately, this car is pretty low. I don't have a jack at home, so I can't get up under here to adjust the clutch. See if I have a jack in the back of the car. But we still got to do a couple of things. We need to take this to an exhaust shop because it rattles for no reason. Everything's tight. It's always had an exhaust rattle, but Death Trap has left me stranded once again in her true fashion. It's always something with this car. All right, boys, so we got the Mustang lifted up off the ground a little bit. I'm gonna crawl up under here. Let's take a look. Okay, so it looks like somehow our cable failed. Looks like it got all scrunched up, came apart. Don't know what happened, but we have a spare. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this off. All right, boys. So that is the clutch cable. So that is what was giving us our issue. I don't know how in the hell that happened. That doesn't really make any sense on how that happened. But we have a stock one. This is out of a Mach 1. So we're going to try to put a stock one in there. I have to take this off so I can use my adjustable part. So let me see if I can't take this off. Alright, boys, so we got the factory clutch cable in there. You have to modify the part that goes to the firewall just a little bit if you want to use the aftermarket adjuster that I have on here. The only way to get it off is to actually break it off because the cable can't fit through. So I just took a hammer to it since it's plastic and broke it off. But it fixed everything, and actually with that cable the clutch was very, very difficult, like pushed in. to push it in. It was very tight, like extremely strong to push it in. Put the new one in. I mean, it's like having a hydraulic clutch. It just, I pushed it straight to the floor. So definitely way better. Let me show you what you had to modify. So as you can see right here, I wanted to keep the aftermarket adjuster that we have here. So I just had to break everything off before this so that it would fit in here. It doesn't fit perfect, but it works. Clutch is in, cable is fixed. I've never seen a cable do that. I've never seen one of these cables do that. I don't know what happened, to be honest. I mean, it's completely like all kinked up and frayed on the inside. I don't know if that was because of the old clutch. You know, the old clutch was going out and the trans was going out, so you had to push the pedal in really hard. I don't know if the old clutch going out and us having to push the pedal down pretty hard over extenuated this cable and just killed it. And, but I'm still going to order an aftermarket one just like this one, because the factory one doesn't have an adjustment down at the bottom where it goes into the clutch fork, and I still would like that adjustment. As you can see right here, the aftermarket ones come with like a threaded end, so you can, you know, adjust where it'll sit at the clutch fork, so you have more adjustment on the clutch. The factory one doesn't have that, but I have it on the second notch on the quadrant and everything. So I'm gonna go take it for a test drive. Hopefully nothing happens. See you guys in the next one.